I do have 2 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started, and the film will be rolling, and they're going to record this, and it is also being live streamed. So Becca, Nick is working on our new website where these types of things would be posted and recorded. So that's coming up soon as he and his team work through that. Well, good afternoon. My name is Steve Anderson. I recognize most of you. Superintendent here at Grace International School, beginning my 6th year now here at Grace. My wife and I for 10 years in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and then another 12 years in the Philippines prior to coming to Chiang Mai. So I was in student evangelism when my wife and I first went out in 1999, and then went to boarding home parent in Manila, and then boarding home administration at Faith Manila, and then went with the mission organization to do coordination for dorms in schools. So I traveled all over Asia to help families with their educational options. So from India to Singapore to Indonesia to Japan, Korea, Philippines, China, other places. So, and then in coming here in 2016, when the board affirmed me to be the next superintendent at Grace International School. So we have 5 children. My youngest, Ben, is in the 10th grade, so he's here. Some of your kids are in the same grade with him. He's keeping my wife and I very young. We have 3 in the U.S. that are married. One, our daughter that graduated from Grace years ago, is in her senior year. So I've had quite the experience of kids graduating from Faith Academy, kids graduating from Grace International School, and just it's been a joy in our heart to continue to be serving the Lord in and throughout Asia. So today, basically just wanted to make myself available to meet you, greet you, share a little bit about the school, and then answer questions that maybe you might have or point you in the right direction for people who could help with those questions that you have. So that's kind of the strategy for today as we get going. So I'm going to hit the next slide. We had 1 write-in question from the survey that went out. So if you wrote something in and it's not up here, that's why you're here, right? You're going to ask. Putting the Christmas concert dates in December, save them to the calendar. So we have done that. One of the things that we're trying to work better and improve is sometimes there's different calendars. There's an academic calendar, there's an athletic calendar, there's an events calendar. So the school really would like to try to work towards there being kind of one calendar that does show everything. When we move to the Google format, there's this Google Calendar that everybody's supposed to be loading in. So the platform of Google, the Google Chromebooks, the Google Calendar is kind of that central location. So those have been added to the calendar, and hopefully you'll see those. So the Christmas concerts, there's typically 3 concerts a year, sometimes 4. We don't really know what life looks like on this campus pre-COVID, you know, and so what does the actual schedule for those kinds of concerts and events look like? So kind of real quick from the floor, were there any other specific questions that maybe you didn't write in but you wanted to ask while you're here? Okay, great. So pre-COVID, obviously, there were illnesses, sicknesses, chickenpox, hand and foot disease, different things that our nurses' office informed families when there's an outbreak, when there's something happening. COVID came along, the CDC, the MOE, the local health authorities, a lot of people began speaking into protocols for things that we have to do. As COVID has waned and become less and less a factor for decisions from the CDC, the MOE. We've been given freedoms in choosing some things like the masks. So the government said masks are now optional. Prior to the school starting, the MOE in Chiang Mai said, we want you to still wear masks. However, it's hard to understand sometimes the interpretations of we want, we recommend, we expect, to the piece of paper that says you must. So there's some things that we maybe do to be in the spirit of their intent, and then some things that we do that were just required. So last week's meeting that I had with the other heads of schools, we talked about what is your mask mandate, what is yours, and so I did hear some things from other schools that masks are totally optional in their schools and settings. Our school was still asking, welcome, thank you. Other schools were, our school was still asking the students to wear their masks in the classroom, but they do have mask breaks leaving the classroom, in the hallways, at lunch, at recess, the games and activities and events. We do anticipate the mask mandate to go to fully optional, but at this time we have not felt the full release. I'm giving a very long answer, sorry. We've not felt the full release from the local MOE who has asked us to wear the masks. So our CMT is looking at when can we step down to make it optional. But the teachers in the classroom, like I'm standing here without a mask, we're socially distanced, are allowed to not wear the mask. It's been so life-giving because students can see their faces, their smiles, their expressions, they can hear them. The teachers are not exhausted from trying to project through the mask. Actually, our cases have been very low. There have been some, but we're no longer required to report those. And so I think this is actually on one of our slides right here. See, thank you. Let me talk about the masks mandate. If there are more than 3 students in a grade level on the same day, that constitutes a cluster. But if there's one today, and then we get a report of another one tomorrow, and then a report of another one tomorrow, that's still similar to another virus or disease or something that they're catching the cold, but it doesn't necessarily now classify a cluster. COVID, everything was a cluster. You got one case, you're shutting the school down. So let me ask this, did I answer your question? So hopefully we're moving to where everybody kind of is optional. And for some people, they're very happy for that, very comfortable. Others, uncomfortable. And so it's a real balance for, well, I'm making my child wear his mask or her mask, and these students are not. But that would come down to a choice from the family to decide. Yes?
Is that being communicated to the teachers? Because my kids are saying that in some of their classes, no one's wearing a mask except 1 or 2 kids. In other classes, the teachers are asking them all to wear masks.
Right.
And it's changing class to class.
Right, right.
And in elementary, you've got kids in like 2 different classrooms, and in one of the classrooms, they have to wear the mask, and in the other one, they don't.
Right, right. We're still navigating this water. It started out very strong, everybody. It's similar to probably the dress code. Some teachers might strictly enforce a dress code issue. Others, they're just not as concerned. They don't see it. But we are asking our teachers to continue to enforce the masks mandate. But I know it's getting extremely hard and frustrating. Like I said, I have a son who might tell me some things as well. And it's like, well, we're still trying to encourage the spirit of the rule. So we're asking our teachers to please continue to encourage and ask your students to wear the masks. That probably doesn't fully answer it, but we are asking the teachers to encourage the students to wear their mask. Great. Maybe anything else specific to COVID? So we do try to keep the website updated. There hasn't been a lot of change, and we do anticipate this going away. I hear rumors that October 1st, it will be downgraded to an endemic, which would mean then that most all of these things. So we would probably see things like the hand temperature, the hand sanitizer and the temperature check go away at the door, to where the nurse's office would monitor if a student is not feeling well coming in. And hand sanitizers in lots of locations, and still encouraged to do that, but that type of bottleneck at the front. It's in this weird time. We think there's an end, but another monkeypox or something else could come up, and they ask us to do something different. So did that answer questions on that? So any other questions before I kind of continue with maybe sharing a little bit about the school? Because I want you to feel heard. What questions you have?
Are you going to be talking about the middle school?
I will.
And so maybe questions regarding that after you share would be better?
Yes. Okay. I can do that for middle school. Great. If you think of something, please raise your hand, let me know, interrupt, and I'll come to it. It might be in some of these slides here, but so just a reminder, I continue to share this with our staff, our students in our community. Our mission, we are here predominantly for our international Christian workers. When the school was started, the thought was we are here to help our missionaries be able to remain on the field with a quality, affordable education that looks at the spiritual, educational, emotional needs for the students, and that their adaptive instruction, so special ed, that the home and distance or the partnership with homeschool, and then the spiritual development of the school. So those are three strong components that the board from years ago has set, and the current board continues to see as why we exist and who we're here for. The vision. I love this vision that every student would know who they are in Christ and experience a quality education in an inspiring learning environment, and that they would be equipped with a biblical worldview to impact the world for Christ. So I'm a missionary kid. I grew up in an MK school, and I'm a living response that teachers, people spoke into my life, made a difference, to where even though I was this missionary kid, I came to a place in my own life where I realized I needed to make a decision for Jesus, that I couldn't expect to get into heaven or have a relationship with God just because my family were missionaries and my dad was a pastor. And so what we want to partner with you as parents is guiding them and giving them the tools to know who they are in Christ, where to have the foundation in God's Word, and then eventually to have the impact in the world. So we have these values. Our core values: we pursue excellence, cultivate community, partner with parents, enable the ICW, which is the International Christian Workers, to remain abroad, and then follow Jesus, Jesus followers. We have our goals, the global objectives for all learners, and you'll see these on the banners in the elementary and secondary, and it's some of the things that we use to help shape our strategic direction, that we are God seekers, image bearers, passionate learners, critical thinkers, and global citizens. Enrollment for this year, you might be interested. Elementary, the 238 elementary students. Secondary, 290. The home and distance education, So we're expanding that to begin to have a model that actually allows for some online learning, as the board wanted to try to empower missionary families to remain in their locations, whether it's the non-province or south of Chiang Mai or even in Myanmar or other countries. Is there a way that they could still get a grace education and a grace diploma? So we're exploring that. And then our educational support, approximately 100 students are serviced. We have about 10 of our educational support. We're still waiting on one more to get here. They're hoping by October, November to come. And this is, again, something that the board has said what makes Grace unique and speaks to enabling our international Christian workers to stay on the field is to help care for their kids through the educational support. So whether that's dyslexia or speech, we have an OT, an occupational therapist. So we're very, very excited to have such a great program in that. Any questions regarding that? Yes.
I had a question about the educational support back one slide. I had a situation where my daughter had been in her admissions process and she had taken the MAT test and her scores for that were low enough that she needed to take another round of them. And from two different people that I talked to, they one was an educational support staff and then the other was Mr. Garrick. I was asking, and they were going to deny her entrance based on that score.
Right.
And I was trying to understand that process. They suggested the possibility that there maybe weren't enough education support staff to be able to bring in a student that might need that. Is that still a problem, or might that not have been the issue?
It does still be a problem depending on the level or severity or of a student's needs. So I can't speak directly to that as far as your child. I'm happy to follow up with you and find out, but we have had to turn some away, even siblings, like yes, 2 got in, but we couldn't do this one. And it's heartbreaking because we want to be here. We're for the international Christian workers, but I came here and I was expecting to get in, and then we don't have the services available or capacity. So we continue to look for those educational support people, and specifically with those, like I think we're still needing a speech pathologist. So we have an OT, occupational therapist, but I think on the books it's still down there for a speech pathologist.
Okay.
So if you want me to, I'll be happy to chat with you later, or and let's dive in and see why or what. But sometimes it's that we either don't have the expertise or the capacity.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do those educational support staff need an education degree, or they would need to just have the capacity to help the students where they are, even if they aren't trained in that specifically?
Yeah, some it depends. So you got 100 students. For some of them, it's just either reading with them or it's just standing over them. Do you understand this math concept in the lower levels, kind of thing. Others, it's actually a one-to-one kind of thing. There's a more severe condition or case. So it does kind of vary. And then our principals do kind of know about the threshold of what maybe a classroom teacher can either handle, and whether that's elementary, obviously, there's 15 kids, 18 kids in each grade level, or, whatever that number might look like. In secondary, where there's 50, 60 kids in the 11th grade, we have Mr. Winslow and Miss Schwindeman over there. So it does vary a little bit, and I don't know, does that answer?
Thank you.
Okay, good. Yes?
Yeah, so there's 100 kids currently enrolled in the school that receive educational support. So like 1 in 5. Wow.
Yeah.
And there's 4 staff doing that?
There's actually 10.
10 staff.
We have on our 12 positions open. As you know, Ms. Shannon Clifton just took over as our educational support director, which now leaves her position as a gap. So we'd need 2 more positions. One specifically was the speech pathologist, but the other position would be to take hers. And again, I'm pretty sure we have somebody approved and interviewed. They're support raising, and hopefully they can get here October, November. Yeah, but it is a lot. Yeah. So here it is, the staffing positions. Grade 3, this is a huge crucial need right now. We actually have a school aide. We have Miss Wendy Wood, the vice principal, and we have Shannon Clifton, the educational support director, all 3 pitching in, as well as Stephanie, the other grade 3 full-time teacher, all combining to help make this work. So we get 60% of our staff come from word of mouth. So if you know of somebody that would be great for this type of role or position, we'd love to talk to them or talk to you about somebody coming in to teach them that role. The elementary music, teachers are doing the best they can and things are happening, and somebody talked about coming in and, you know, and I can give this amount of time, you know, kind of thing, but maybe it doesn't service all the classes or grade levels. So maybe it's something like that. If you reach out to the elementary department and say, well, I could do Tuesdays and Thursdays for 2 hours. Okay, then what 2 grade levels or classes might that look like? And maybe somebody else says, I can do Mondays. And so it might not be a Christmas concert, you know, that happens later, but it could be music and learning that goes on. Yeah.
Yeah, the 2 SIL parents have stepped in. One is doing kindergarten first, and another one is doing second and third.
There we go.
So, and then 6th grade is up with grouping, so it's really 4 and 5. And
Okay.
That's not an ideal situation.
Right.
It's movement towards
Yeah. Fantastic. I put on here this referral program, staff referral program. So it's actually on our website. It may be a little hidden under the parent tab here. But should you get someone to, you fill out the staff referral program, and then they fill out the form, and they actually come here. So not just, oh, I got 10 people to fill out the form, but they actually fill out the form and they show up here, and after 30 days, they stay, right? That 5,000 baht. So if you're a mission agency and you're the one that's signing them up or whatever, fill out this form, get them here, it's just another way to try to incentivize, you know, how to do that. So just making you aware that under the parent tab, there actually is this parent referral form, and it points in that kind of direction. As we are a school that still relies on our staff to raise their own support, the partnership with the mission agencies or churches, we have some that are just here from their church, and that's a kind of a growing popular thing. So making you aware of those. You will see more of these as we do middle school. So we also have our GIS development website, which highlights the construction projects that are up and coming. We have what's the completion of phase 1, which is going to be the middle school, the gymnasium, and the performing arts, or the band and choir room. So we have this huge number that would complete all of phase 1, and then we broke it down into the 3 different segments: middle school, the Tiger Fieldhouse Gymnasium, and the performing arts. So there have been some donations that have come to each one of these, and we actually have some more money that has just come in. So we'll see this go to full capacity, and through our loan that we will be taking, we will have that. So our timeline, if all goes well, and we get some contracts signed by the middle to end of this month, construction crews would actually show up out here around the very end of September, and you'll start to see out the back side there more life and activity towards building this. The goal, they say 6 to 7 months, so by April, end of April, it's supposed to be finished, and gives us a couple of months to actually then get the occupancy permits and get all the desks and chairs, the whiteboards up, the IT things in, everything, like that set up for August. The goal is grades 6, 7, and 8. So 6th graders would move to the elementary building. 7th and 8th grades would move out to that building. It then creates openings in elementary to grow a 3rd, 5th grade, a 3rd, 4th grade, to be able to grow our elementary. Same in secondary. It then allows us with the classroom space to grow that area. For me, middle school is a real passion, because I think if the student ministry that I've done and I see the lives, that's a huge transformational time, both physically. I love messing with the middle schoolers. Their minds, they'll believe everything. You can charge a battery if you stick it under your armpit, and hold it there for about 20 minutes. It'll charge. Really? So, but this is a really great time where we see a transformation in their lives, both physically, emotionally, socially, spiritually. So I'm excited about this. Ready for occupancy by August of 2023. So I'll show you a picture here of the rendering, the design. So you see the middle school here. These are bathrooms that would be in the middle that look just like the ones on the other side of the cafeteria. So there's design for restrooms on either side. And then this would be our performing arts, where our band and choir would be. Where this student is right here, eventually, not part of phase 1, phase 2 would be the auditorium. So then that's where about the plans for about 1,000-seat auditorium would come in. But that's phase 2. Other questions about middle school?
Yeah, so I have a daughter who will be in 8th grade next year.
Okay.
So she's feeling quite apprehensive about it all.
Mm-hmm.
One, we don't have middle school in Australia, so it doesn't exist. So it's foreign in that sense. But also just hard to be excited about joining secondary and then being pulled out of that for her, like a year after being here for a year.
Right.
So the questions that they had, my girls, were, is middle school going to be separated from secondary completely in terms of chapel, cafeteria, like those kind of things, or will they be joined with the rest of secondary?
I think that's it's still being explored by Joe Crane, our deputy superintendent, and the educational leadership team as to whether or not chapels, lunches, those types of things, a bell schedule. So I don't think those details are worked out. They certainly are trying to be sensitive to, this is new, a new concept, whether it's from Australia or other, for the the U.S. mindset, a middle school might be, or a junior high might be understandable. So it is kind of different. With any transition, sometimes it's a little challenging, but hopefully we can make it something that's very significant, special, beneficial, and not separated, not like, now I've digressed again to this, less than kind of thing. So as we continue to have conversations, please continue to bring that to our forefront, and I'll mention that to Joe, our deputy superintendent. Hey, what are we going to do? How are we going to continue to make this significant and special, and bridge some things, but I don't have the answers on lunch and chapel. Great. Yes?
Correct me if I'm wrong, what I would imagine is that the teachers that they have now
Mm-hmm.
in 7th grade
Mm-hmm.
would then move over to that building.
Right.
Because some of them teach 7th grade science and 8th grade science.
Right.
The math.
Right.
And so that would be how they would be moving room. It wouldn't be like that those teachers stay there and that there are brand new teachers. And so I see it as more of like a different room, and that the halls are less crowded, and maybe they aren't seeing their 9th grade friends, right? Because right now they're seeing the grade above, and so they would miss that piece. But the teachers, they stay at grades would be the same. The layout would look a little bit
Right. We are looking for a middle school principal, vice principal, administrative assistant, and there also will be a special education classroom designated in that building as well. One thing that will be in the secondary building, we'll keep our science classroom. So as a 7th or 8th grader going to science, you would still go to Ms. Zumfelde's science classroom on the end. Because it's already so fitted so well for science, and we can utilize a couple of those first floor downstairs rooms. So the thought might be that a few classes might still be in that building. So maybe it still gives those 8th graders that bridge to secondary. Yeah, hopefully we can work with you guys and those kids and make it something that's fun and special and not, you know, that they're anxious about. Okay. Again, some of the campus development projects, the Tiger Field House, gymnasium, the auditorium, which is, like I said, part of phase 2, and then the performing arts building, that is the band and choir room. So if we can get them out of the stables to that other building, which would be lovely. Love to get them over there where they don't have to white walk so far. Medium projects, the parking lot, you know, that's something we still want to kind of improve and go for. The drop-off pickup canopy talks about how we have an actual dry space for kids to be dropped off and picked up and not in the elements. Covered walkways, you see the canopies that we have that are temporary. We would be looking to try to add those to this cafeteria, to the middle school building, and then to the stables around the backside there. And then the facilities, looking for a bit of a storage area that actually can handle some of the automobiles and mechanics and stuff like that. Everything's still kind of out all in the elements for them, lawnmowers and things. Great. Any other questions on those?
Well, you're going to talk about belonging, so let's do that first.
Oh, okay. All right. So again, Mr. Joe Crane, our Deputy Superintendent, along with George Thomas, and have launched a couple years ago now the Belonging Initiative. So the climate survey sent out in February 2022 to gather the quantitative data. In April, they had their first round of story gathering for students, parents, and staff, alumni to meet in focus groups, in a setting and sharing how they have or have not experienced belonging at Grace. And then Q1 of this year, facilitate the second round of story gathering and the theme of general belonging. And then we'll continue to update the community as we go along. And the DS office, so Mr. George Thomas and or Mr. Joe Crane monitor that and would be happy to answer and respond to questions along that. So there's something directly.
Yeah, is there a goal or direction for all of that data and gathering?
Yeah, so I think the goal and direction for that is as we experience and kind of as our world and society is struggling and wrestling with a lot of identity, whether it's what identity you are as a boy or a girl, what identity you are as a believer or a non-believer, and then how you fit into this culture, this context. We've been told we're very American, and you see that in the staffing. You see that in 49% of the student body is American, and then the Korean, and then the Thai, and then the other nationalities. So we get it. We understand. We acknowledge that. But how do we actually become a little bit better at being an international school? Is it just the International Day one day a year? No. So it needs to be something that these focus groups are coming together so that there is that sense of belonging, that whatever nationality you feel connected, a part of, and a place here. But again, going back to our vision, that we're helping students to know who they are in Christ and be given the tools to be able to impact the world for Christ. Some kids are going to come through here and not receive Christ. We don't expect them to. We want them to. We desire for them to. But we acknowledge we're going to have family members or students that come through here that aren't going to fully engage with whether it's the religion, personal relationship, the culture, but we're intentional about being a Christian school here in Asia. Did that?
Yeah, I had kind of a
Okay.
follow-up to that. I can't remember the title of the slide that you had, but whether you consider it goals or objectives for the school, one of them is partner with parents, and two is to cultivate community.
Our values, yeah.
And I'm sorry, I didn't write this in the spreadsheet that came up, this thought came up in the last few days. In terms of campus building growth, I'm excited about the development.
Right.
And the different, yeah, that's the slide. Thank you.
Right.
I'm excited about all those things. I think they're all of merit. And
Right.
value. But as I experience the campus as a parent, I don't have an office.
Mhm.
I don't work here. I do come to sporting events. I do help in the classroom.
Right.
There, other than the few couches in the front of the building, there isn't really a place for a parent. And while I understand that the campus during the school day is focused on the education and growth of the children, but after school, there is really no place for a parent, either inside the gate or even outside the gate.
Right.
The change in community from Oral Club
Right.
to here is just extremely vast.
Right.
Not asking this new campus to become
Right.
the next role
Right.
on campus.
Right.
But I think how between COVID and the move,
Right.
it's created major challenges for those two objectives in terms of cultivating community and partnering with parents.
Right.
So I'm wondering if the school has ever considered in its plans, how are you going to cultivate community and partner with parents better when there isn't a place for really that to happen on campus for a parent?
Right, yeah. And when we got here, we were at World Club, and certainly, 200-300 people rode bicycles to the school, and I remember, people were going, we were dorm parents, and like the kids were going at 6 a.m. to the weight room, and they were there for discipleship training early, and then there was Sojo's coffee shop across the campus, and then once school ended, then there was the swimming pool, and the parent community was all there, and then there were sports, and there was the playground, and there was, all that. And a lot of people lived in and near, and now we're way out here, and there's less and less out here, more coming. So we definitely realize our past and trying to figure out what is that balance of what does community look like in the partnership with parents in this space. So one of the intentionalities of actually enclosing that administration downstairs, because originally it was open air, was let's get out of the smoke, let's get out of the smoky season. Parents can come at least to that place. Testing, we've added water, coffee, tea, some things that if that's where you can come and sit and meet your student for a meeting point, that's your place to come right now. After school, the campus is moving towards a little bit more COVID lifting. You can probably sit down here in the administration building or on the steps of the elementary or secondary, the courtyard. So there will be some places you could venture out a little bit more. The cafeteria, of course, economy-wise, if it's not being used, we try to keep air off and the lights and kitchen crews out of there. But so we do want to try to invite you to a few places, and as the weather gets a little bit better, it's nicer to sit outside. We've thought about a coffee shop out in the parking lot area, something else that, again, provides some shade, something. But we were trying to focus our expenses, at least, on the educational spaces. But that's definitely in the future goals and plans. What does that look like? So as you're a parent, you don't have to just sit in your car for half an hour in the line with your motor running in the heat. Where is there? Graceland, eventually, we'll be building a commercial center up front. Genesis Coffee across the street, others, I think we're beginning to see some things, we could capitalize on this. But on campus right now, the only place we kind of have is designated as the front of the administration building for that.
And I think that that is a nice option. And I did notice the water being available and, some tea, and I was happy to see that. But with those two goals, cultivating community and partnering with parents, I really encourage the school to have something even on the development strategy of what the school wants to do to provide a space for parents. Because the benches and stuff around the campus, they're nice options if you're you're sitting and talking with a parent as you're waiting to pick up your child. But if you're waiting for 2 hours for your child to finish a game or to participate in running club, that gets hard and long.
Right.
It's harder to really have community in that space.
Right.
I wanted to bring a tree or something like that and connect with other parents that have soccer players. There really isn't a space. So I'm more wondering from the school administration, what do you want in terms of parent community? How do you want to partner with parents?
Right.
What does that really look like in your mind? And to make that available for people to donate to.
Right.
Because as people look at what they want to donate to,
Right.
to organizations to donate to, if it's not on there, they can't.
Right.
So.
It's a tricky balance. I'll try to be diplomatic in answering, because in one aspect we are a school.
Sure.
It's not really our responsibility to make you as a parent to feel comfortable in the after-school setting with your coffee shop and stuff. It's nice of us, but at Grace we do value the cultivating community and the parents, so we do want to figure out what that looks like. When student safety, child safety began to become much more of an emphasis, and schools' lawsuits and things for happening with, my student was in this bathroom and an adult walked into the bathroom with them. Did we know? Did we have accountability? Did they have permission to be here? Where do the drivers that come, what restrooms do they use? A parent who's visiting the sports thing that's going on, I'm just going to go wander the campus. I've never been on their school campus. And sometimes when I go to other schools and campuses, I'm not really allowed to go walk around other places. And yet sometimes we have this expectation, well, why can't I? Why? So it is a strategic balance of what is, what's acceptable, what's safe, what's reasonable. But we certainly want to listen and do what we can. And so I've heard several times now, something out in the parking lot area, something else on campus. So there are a few minimal places, and as we grow and as we become that, it's certainly something that maybe there's actually a parent community building or something that I would love to see a chapel, something that parents could come throughout the day and actually pray, and then meet, and then. So if I think dream-wise, I would love to see something like that, where it actually would foster, no, actually this is our place, and it's not going to infringe on the students or the school, and it does give us community. So that's out there, but I don't have drawings for it. I don't have, money going towards it and all, but, so we're not, I want to be very careful how I say that, because sometimes it comes across like, we're an institution, you can stay in the parking lot, we're over here. That's not who we are, want to be. But what is that healthy balance of the guards actually telling you, ma'am, it's 8 o'clock, kids, go home. At World Club they had to run people out. Hey, it's time to shut down the pool, the tennis courts, and everything, and go home. But what a lovely thing too, that the kids come on and feel welcome, and that the parents do. So if we're not hitting it, please continue to, email me, let me know. If we're being intentional or unintentionally uninviting, I do want to know. So I hope that gives a little bit of an answer and a journey. Okay. Yeah. Anyone else on that, or? Okay. thanks for bringing it to our attention again. The belonging. This is one other one it will again also be available on our future website. I'll try to make it bigger here for you. So a couple years ago, we actually did an incredible survey on how GIS does partner and what are the ministries and things that people are involved in and doing. So I'm just going to tease you with this, let you see it, and it will be coming on the website, more available for you. But it is awesome and humbling to know how we are a part of what God's kingdom work is doing in Asia. So obviously there's some challenges, the purpose, then we have the survey, number of surveys sent, the data that has come in. Again, I know I'm going fast through this, but 40 plus countries, 59% kingdom workers serving in one country, 38% workers serving in 2 to 10 countries, and then 3% kingdom workers serving in 11 more countries. And then again, this shows a little bit about the place. So you can see heavily here in Thailand, in Myanmar, China, India, Laos, down the list by priority. So just a little bit of a teaser for how GIS is impacting. Because again, when our vision statement, how we provide the students with tools to equip them to impact the world for Christ. When we look at the mission history now, we see more and more MKs actually going out and engaging in the gospel. They want to make an impact. The millennials today, they want to have purpose. They want to know what they're doing makes a difference. And so we see this and value this on how we can try to do that. So again, I know it's hard to read. Some of y'all are squinting, and it may not be that clear, but this will eventually be on that website as well. So some of the prayer points, and then if you have other questions and things, I'll be glad to answer. Our staffing needs continue to be every year, because we're a school that depends on staff to raise their own support. It's crucial that you partner with us and that we partner with you, and we advocate and get families, missionaries, teachers here for your students. The fundraising that continues to go on, Gene Foltz, our founder, has been in the States for the last 3 months. I don't know how many miles he's put on his car and traveling, and people that he has seen as he networks. Mike Springer, one of our board members, is actually in the States for a period of time, actually making contacts and things as well. And then again, we rely on you to network with your people. I've had the privilege of going to Korea. I've had the privilege of going to the U.S., Singapore, to advocate and talk about Grace International School. As the purpose for this school, strategically located here in the 1040 window, to make that impact. And so if we can continue to share with people how Grace is set up to keep families on the field, impact the world for Christ, we need their funds. So I have a trip coming up in November, ACSI, which is Association of Christian Schools International. They are one of the accrediting agencies for the school. So every 6 years we apply and get our accreditation. So this is a building year, and the following year, 23-24, will be our next accreditation. But this specific trip is geared for recruitment. So I'll be in the States for a month and visiting at least 7 different universities, churches, organizations, to try to advocate for the staffing needs that we will have in the future. Sometimes we know when a teacher has already declared, this is my last year, I'm leaving, we know we need a math teacher or something like that, then that's helpful. We do ask our staff to try to commit to at least a 2-year window so that we can kind of predict the 2 years that we know we're going to need this person or this person kind of thing. Especially as we move into a middle school, we do know we're going to need a few more staff members and administration. So any other questions or comments or things that you have? Becca, thanks again for asking such great questions on some stuff. And I'm happy to sit down with you a little bit more, and thank you. Be passionate about it and keep it in front of me. Thank you. Others have?
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
Or question/comment about the middle school thing?
Sure.
From my 10th grader?
Yes.
She says that splitting the middle school and high school kind of undermines the culture of belonging they're trying to create, as relationships between grade levels are really important.
Mm-hmm.
And being in middle school, it was really encouraging and affirming when you had older friends in high school that looked out for you and advised you. So separating them leaves less room for that to happen. That goes on to her point of like trying to keep chapel at least together or lunches together. A lot of the middle school teachers were our grade sponsors and advisors, and they've all left this year. The majority of them have now moved on to different grades.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been really unsettling because of the plans of moving middle school next year. It doesn't feel as safe if you have new teachers instead of the ones that you've had for the past 3 years and all of your advisors change. So thinking ahead for the current 8th graders, are they going to have to change advisors again too when they move up to secondary in a year's time? So thinking about the belonging sense, moving them from high school into middle school for 1 year and then back to high school, please consider how that will affect them if they also have to change advisory and grade sponsors.
Right. Great, great questions from your daughter and observations. Y is sitting over here and she's taking some notes. And so I'm pretty sure she probably heard the question that your daughter was asking, and especially along that sense of belonging, that it seems like to undermine that. And so that'll be something I'll be discussing with, again, Joe and the educational leadership team, that we're sensitive to these kids and what they're saying. We also do hear the other side, that in chapel, it just doesn't apply to 7th graders. They can't, they're just not, what an 18, 17-year-old senior is engaged with as opposed to a 7th grader. Sometimes there's a big gap and disconnect. And so we do hear both sides of it, but I totally get how great it is that she felt like she had mentors from that were looking out for her and, hey, how you doing, and nurturing her along. So certainly something we want to keep in mind as we think to move forward. I wish I had all the right answers right now on that, but it's great that we have this time to ask good questions and to hear from the kids.
So I think the question was specifically about grade sponsors
Mhm.
and advisory teachers.
Right.
Because the kids this year, particularly our 10th graders, that's all changed for them. They've got new advisory and new year sponsors. But for the kids that are going next year, having to go to middle school from high school, are they then going to switch again to different sponsors and different advisory teachers when they then have to switch back a year later to high school?
Wow. We need her on the committee to help think through those questions and stuff. That is true. That is impactful.
She just emailed me now.
Mhm.
She's like, can you go to this meeting? These are the things that I'm
And transparency for me as an MK growing up, and similar, just like this school, every year, great teachers, people that spoke into my life, gone the next. And it's just like, so sometimes we would get tired as MKs. How much do I really want to give to them or invest? Or in this friendship, how long are you really going to be here? How deep am I really going to go with you? And so I'm so encouraged that your daughter is thinking those deep questions and wrestling with that and wants to see that belonging and that. So I don't have the specific answers on what would happen to those advisors and that and everything, but it is certainly one of the challenges that we probably all can relate to, the transition. Every year we say goodbye to just people that have meant so much to us in our lives. And it's hard. And we go through that. It doesn't lessen the pain every year, kind of thing. But so Y's got the question down. I'll go to the educational leadership team and let's find out. And what we'll do is typically, as Y has these questions, and I try to wrestle and find out, I'll get some counsel and stuff. In about a week or so, we'll try to shoot out specifically for you guys that were here and to the community, hey, here's some questions, here's our response. And if you don't hear something in a couple of weeks, please let me know.
Sorry, one more
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Another question from my 5th grader, because she's going to be the 6th grade moving into middle school. So she said, we all look out, she's been here 6 years, hanging out to be the 6th grader and be the oldest in elementary, because they also get priority for being on the yearbook team, the chapel team, things like that they don't get the chance to do until 6th grade. And then she's like, we're going to miss that because we're going to be now the youngest in middle school.
Yeah.
Is that's something that the school's thinking about and going, hey, we need to keep that in mind for these kids that are in 5th grade this year that are going to miss that opportunity of having, that experience of 6th grade being the oldest.
I do believe Carol Steedman, who's been 9 years as principal now, and actually in her 21st year here at Grace, has raised similar questions like that for those 6th graders, knowing this is a really important year for them. So what are we going to do to navigate through so that it's not, I'm back at the bottom of this, totem pole or, kind of thing, and insignificant, don't have any, senior moments for them, as 6th graders. So I know she has been advocating for how we're attentive to that.
Just like the 6th grade graduation, they won't have, if they're leaving 5th grade this
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
5th grade graduation, that's right.
Great questions.
I wasn't even coming to this meeting.
You did so well. Mom, go to this meeting
I
again.
know, they keep messaging me. I'm
It's-
like, you're in class.
It's better than, I forgot my shoes or my trumpet or, something like that. And bring that up. Yes?
Do you feel that with the building being ready, that the staffing will be ready as well? Because you could have a building,
Correct.
but do you have the staff? And have you considered what that looks like for taking new students? Because many moving pieces.
Right, it is. I think my last conversation with Joe Crane, a deputy superintendent who oversees the academic aspects of the school, he's targeting a go, no-go date of January, February as we take enrollment to know, just because we built a building and we can add 50 seats, do we have the staffing to do that? And so it's certainly possible we build it and we don't yet have it staffed. So it could not materialize as a full-fledged middle school, but our anticipation is it would be. Yeah, that's definitely, but he's projecting that when we kind of have a go, no-go for enrollment and or staffing to actually pull it off that way. Yeah.
And I assume it will follow the ABCDE schedule.
I don't know that I would assume that at all. Yeah, I don't know. They're talking curriculum, they're talking bell schedule, they're talking the chapels, they're talking special events like when my daughter was in 6th grade, there was the Horizon Village, and there was the Utia trip, and there were some, so what does 7th grade get? What does 8th grade get? What are those special significant milestones for those grade levels? So I know there's a lot of conversation about all that. Good. Other comments or questions?
I had a quick testimony, I guess. I have 4 new students this year, and then we have some really good friends that we've been carpooling, and of the 6 of this new, or 2 students that aren't mine and 4 students that are mine, we've been getting together on Sunday nights to pray for Grace and to pray specifically for the kids and that belonging piece.
Right.
And what I've seen so far as they've taken initiative and they've started looking around at their own classmates, and seeing, ooh, this person isn't belonging. They seem on the side. They've started taking initiative and reaching out, and one ninth grader sent an email to all the other ninth graders and said, this boy has been being left out. Let's be sensitive to him, but let's be intentional. And so they've been sitting by him and including him. And then 2 of the 11th graders have noticed 2 girls specifically being left out, and they both felt separately as they were praying that God was like, these 2, we want to bring them in. We don't want them to feel excluded.
Right.
And so they've been looking for opportunities this week to do that together. And so I just think so much of this belonging piece starts in the home with us talking with our kids. Like, are you looking when you're at lunch? Are you noticing people who aren't feeling like they're belonging? Are you actually intentional to get to know people and to honor them with how you talk to them, and even in the hallways, wherever you are? And so much already is happening with just this small group of kids that we've been getting together with and then driving to school with. And so
That's
I just
beautiful.
think it's possible if these kids can start looking outside of themselves, remembering what it feels like to be left out. Nobody wants to feel like that. And then how can I be a part, even if it's just one person that I connect with today that maybe I wouldn't. So I feel really hopeful for that belonging piece. Yes, with parents in the mix of it as well, but even just in the lunchroom or out in the hallways, I think that's so important.
Good. Thank you for sharing that testimony. And yeah, Mr. Crane again has been in chapels and our advisories, and we continue to try to, talk about, is there somebody on the fringe? Is there something that you recognize they're left out? Take that step and invite them in. And so thank you. Good.
I think on, like, talking about that as well, like, what I'm hearing from my kids is that chapel and worship night are the absolute best things about Grace. Particularly my 7th grader, who only learnt to cry this year. Like, she's coming home every week saying that she just sobs all the way through chapel and worship night, and like, God's really using it to speak to her. So when I'm like thinking middle school and chapel and the impact that, yes, she's in 7th grade, but don't assume that because some 7th graders maybe aren't connecting on the same level as 12th graders, that it's not having a huge impact on them. And she's really scared of losing that by going to middle school.
Yeah.
So, yeah, keep that into consideration. Please.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think those young kids, the 7th, 8th graders, who are like learning who their identity is in Christ, just from watching and hearing the testimonies of older kids, it shows them a way.
Right.
And so I think it's really important for that age group to be seeing the 10th, 11th, 12th graders getting up and sharing what God's doing in their lives.
Right. Yeah.
And being a part of that.
I thank you for bringing that out. I'm so grateful, Jeff Camphausen, Maddie, and our new guy, Spiritual Life Office, Ryan. It was so cool to see our kids connecting and having a chance to relate. And they get to come by the Spiritual Life Office, and they're intentionally reaching out to the kids, and then very intentional and purposeful. And like you said, the older kids leading in worship and testimonies, the elevator conversations they had the other night that had to get shut off because it's like, okay, we gotta turn off the lights and go, get out of here. And so, yeah, thank you for that. And it's certainly something we'll be considering. Good. Other questions? Yeah.
Have you considered having like a parental panel for middle school where the school says, hey, we're looking at this option versus this option, or what are your priorities, or what would be important for you as you anticipate middle school? So at some point the school has to decide what is going to be best for the school, but I'm wondering, is this the place where you want parents to continue to share what's important to them? Or is there like another platform where you might want to hear from parents specifically about what they would value for their family for middle school?
It certainly can be here, but I only do this twice, once this semester and one next semester. So probably an email and either setting up an appointment, but yes, there will be focus groups that are asked and invited to come talk through this. And again, Joe Crane, Deputy Superintendent, would be conducting and getting that information as he thinks through, again, curriculum, bell schedule, chapels, staffing, the advisors, those types of things. So he's definitely the go-to person in that. And so that email, I'll pull it up here again, had dsoffice@gisthailand.org. Welcome to write him. And again, as Wide takes these notes, and I'll go back and say, hey, this question came up. When can we share about how to bring parents in the conversation? Anything else? Yes?
So other than teaching and funding, which are obviously always huge needs every year, how can we be praying for you personally and for your trip to the States and results you want to see from that?
Yeah, thank you. For me personally, I feel like God has given me the opportunity to be the steward of this school with the direction of the board. I'm the one hire from the board. So the board sets policy and says you got to stay within these guardrails of that policy. And then it's my responsibility to make sure management executes everything that is desired from that. And so I feel that tension between management and the board, but the board has been so supportive and the management have been so supportive, but it's still sometimes when the decision comes down to me making the decision, that I receive wise counsel. So praying for wisdom is always something I ask for, that I would hear the wise counsel from people to help shepherd and lead the school in the direction that is there. For the trip, every year as we say goodbye to people that we love, every year God sends us some wonderful people that we just wouldn't know and encounter if they weren't called to be here to come. So that God begins to work. There was actually an alumni who just wrote me a couple of days ago and says, hey, they're about 6-7 years out of Grace now. I'd like to come back and teach. And so as the Lord begins to work in their hearts, and I heard a testimony from somebody else recently who said, we thought we'd get here sooner, but it took us 10 years. And so sometimes it's just sowing seeds into the hearts of either students or people I'll be encountering, that the fruit doesn't bear until later, but that God would already be planting the seeds and walking before me as I go to these colleges, universities, and churches. Safety in the journey. I don't want to get COVID along the way and, sorry, I can't make that appointment, I can't come, I'm sick, or, whatever. And so that kind of thing would be, and I've tried to build in actually a day or two each week to, one day to, okay, don't make appointments. Let's just pray, let's rest, let's answer emails, let's just, do something to build in that margin. So those are some specific things for me. For our staff, it is a sacrifice. I remember how I got called to be in overseas education. My 9th grade teacher, actually from Canada, and single gal out there, and it's hot. There was this is back in the old days, there wasn't any air conditioning in the rooms, it was just windows open, and you hope the fan and it was working because the power didn't go out, because that would make it really hot, kind of thing. And we watched her overcome quite a few struggles. This was back when there wasn't any email, there wasn't just the phone, you wrote a letter, it took 7 days to get there, it took another 7 days to get back, and the crisis is kind of over now, right, maybe, or something. And I was so touched that this lady gave up what I would have considered probably a good lifestyle in the States, teaching with her family and nephews and grandparents and all this stuff, to come here to this heat and to teach us. And I'll never forget, I was sitting there in that classroom like, wow, that is just so sacrificial of her, and I'm so grateful that she did that for me. So as we think about our staff, they're sacrificing a lot to be here. even though there's a lot of conveniences. My daughter texts me at noon, so I know she's up. She's supposed to be in bed, right? It's midnight where she is. But no, now she wants to chat and talk, and everything. So the communication is much different, but you're not there. You're not there for the grandma's birthday party. You're not there for the funeral. You're not there for the wedding. You're not there for a significant event or something. And that tugs on you. So grateful for our staff that follow the Lord's calling in their life to come make an impact in the lives of these kids and speak into those lives. Thank you for asking for that. Great. Any other? Got about a minute or two. And then you get to go pick up your wacky kids who are, if you're in secondary, oh my goodness, over the top with some of the fun things that they're doing this week. Elementary had its Tiger Pride Day yesterday, all the blue and gold. Tomorrow is some sort of, what is it? It's not...
Holiday.
Oh, yeah, dress up like a Christmas tree or Easter bunny or something. I can't wait to see what happens tomorrow. But thank you all for taking time today to come. Continue to write me, ask questions if you have. Thank you for allowing us to partner with you in the investment and the growth of the life. I was impacted by teachers that were in my life. And I know we have great staff here that are doing that for your kids. But we can never replace you as parents. So please let us know how we can do that better to cultivate that community. Blessings to you all. There's still some fruit, brownies, drinks. Stash your purse or your pocket. And thank you. Have a great day. You're very welcome.